All right. What's going on, guys? We're back for another episode of In Plain Sight, and I'm your host. Actually, you already know who I am. I'm Thien.
I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
Oh, there you go.
I'm Matt.
Matt finally said he's Matt, instead of waiting 3 minutes before he says it. I think we're going to kickstart this episode off with some really great and wonderful beer that everybody can afford, right?
I mean, mine's kind of expensive.
What'd you buy? Okay, what'd you get, Andy?
So I got Chimay. Really good. Yeah, Chimay.
Oh.
Not spelled like it sounds. Chimay. I think it's Belgium, maybe. Yeah, Belgium. So really good, sweet, nutty at the end. Little bitter. I like it a lot. I hesitated on the price just because I think it's $40 for a 4-pack. It's really good though.
How did you go? How did we go from talking about you getting Mad Dog 2020 to getting that?
Look, they were sold out of Mad Dog. This is, next to it, and I was like, this is close enough, right? So I picked it up.
So is it pretty heavy bodied?
Actually, yeah, kind of. It reminds me a lot of a like a chocolate stout or what is it? Dragon's milk. It has the consistency of dragon's milk. Yeah. But a much more of a richer flavor. Like I like this.
Richer. You're right. It is a much richer flavor than dragon's milk. Dragon's milk is already expensive as it is, right?
It's very delicious.
Oh yeah.
So dragon's milk is a high gravity beer.
Mm-hmm.
Really high in alcohol content. What about Shebangs there?
Shebang, Shememe is 8%. So yeah,
I think Dragon's Milk is 9.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dragon's Milk is up there. It might end up being a malt liquor at the end of the day, but yeah.
I think Shebangs
really
just ripped you off today.
The flavor's worth it. I'd probably buy this again.
Okay, well,
really good.
Maybe if I can find some around my area,
you can find it. You just have to stop shopping at Walmart.
Yeah. That's what I've been bringing to the table. What about you, Matt? What'd you bring today?
I think I brought something very similar to what Andy brought.
Shebangs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Delirium.
Have you had this? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Nice. This will be my first time trying it. I bought a whole bunch of beer the other day. And this is it's called Delirium, Nocturnum Strong Dark Beer. And it is 8% or 8.5%. And it is also a Belgian dark ale.
So why you spend the next 10 minutes opening that? What time is it over there right now?
It is 8 a.m.
It's 8 p.m. somewhere. It's 8 p.m.
I think you might have a drinking problem. I'm just throwing it out there.
I wonder why. It's because the people I hang around with.
8 a.m. and drinking Delirium at 8% alcohol by volume. Now, if I was waking up at 8 a.m. to do a podcast, I think I would choose something more around 2 or 3%, right? Maybe like a blonde ale or something. So I think you have a problem, Matt. So how does Delirium taste to you?
It tastes lighter than I expected.
Oh, I was expecting him to say it tastes like a beer. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's actually that's the most we've gotten from me.
I've heard some complaints about how I describe my beer, so I'm trying to do better.
Okay,
it tastes a bit fruitier, and I was actually looking to get more of a stout beer. That's what I was expecting, but it tastes like a fruity light beer.
So what do you mean by fruity, Matt? Because it could be hints of berries or it could be gay. What do you mean by fruity? Gay. He means gay.
He's like, there's so many words in the English language, I can't find one right now.
Why do you think I only teach basic level English?
So that episode should have been English as a second language, sorta, right?
Sorta.
So what else about Delirium can you tell us about here, man? Because
where's it from?
Give me a second. Not sure.
So I had Delirium for the first time at a place called
Oh,
the
it's from
Vortex.
Belgium.
Nice.
Nelly Belgium.
You remember the Vortex, Andy? Did we ever go?
Yep.
Okay.
We went to Vortex.
We went to the good one, right? With the big skull outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Yeah, there's a gay one downtown.
Oh,
Literally.
we may have went to that one too.
Lots
I
of
don't
gay
know.
guys. Yeah, I don't know, man. We went to the prickly pear. It was pretty gay.
Dude, that
there,
place
too.
is awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. Oh, sorry, Matt. By the way, I just want our listeners to, they probably noticed, they're not dumb. He's not telling us what it tastes like. He's looking it up to see what
Yep. He's like, what do other people say?
It has a multi aroma with roasted caramel, mocha, chocolate licorice, and coriander.
That's the best review Matt's ever given.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
What do
That
you
it,
have
Matt?
that you just slammed there? 10?
Oh, so, I am the most interesting man in this camper right now that I'm sitting in. So that's why.
Are you sure? Did you check behind in the bathroom? Somebody might be in there.
That's why I'm drinking Dos Equis. Dos Equis is not Uno Equis. Is that the right spelling of dos? Is that two?
Yeah, that's 2. And
My
it's
ignorant
2
ass.
X's.
My ignorant
Do-
ass can't tell.
Dos
is that
Equis
what it
means 2 X's.
Two
Yeah.
X's? Holy
Yeah.
shit. So,
Oh.
so
Wow.
So some of you guys probably know that Dos Equis is drank by the most interesting people in this world. It's an interesting beer because it's like the Mexican Bud Light, right? It's not too great, but it's good enough to drink for a long time. And I don't know if you knew about this, Andy and Matt, but there was once upon a time where I slammed like 50 beers over one night and they were all Bud Lights. Didn't even get wasted because they were Bud Lights.
I mean, were you working outside? You probably have to stay hydrated somehow.
I was outside, right? I was drinking them with Keith, my father-in-law. So yeah, so now this is blowing my mind because Dos Equis means 2 X's. Now look, this little tab's got 2 X's on it. You see?
So
that?
have you had it with lime though?
Yeah, I've had.
I love it with lime.
So I think the reason why I love Dos Equis so much is that if you go inside a restaurant that keeps their beers at the right temperature, like really, really cold, right before freezing, and the right amount of carbonation, and you ask them for a Dos Equis with lime, man, it's fantastic. It's I think it's the classic taste of beer that us in America, in the United States, know as beer. Between this and a Bud Light and Michelob and all of that taste of
Watery goodness.
Yeah, watery goodness. Carbonated watery goodness, right? That makes it
hydrated.
really, really cool. And it's made of spring water. And I know we can go into the store and pay like $1 per gallon for spring water, but I've done my tours of drinking spring waters from different springs, and I kind of find it special that I don't know what's going on with my mic that you use spring water, because that spring water itself just tastes amazing. Well, it depends on where you get it at, because some of it tastes like ass. But 2X is one of my favorite beers, and it's not a troll pick this week, man. It's not playing Soraka Jungle, right? This is actual good beer. Jesus Christ, Andy, what are you doing? Giving that thing head?
I was wondering too. I was like,
It's giving me a lot of head right now.
Make it easy.
also, what's happening? Oh my God.
All right. We're good.
Someone's having a fun night.
Oh,
I think just busted,
Yeah.
man.
look, when you spend $40 for something, you get your money's worth, all right? Either it's going to serve you or you're going to serve it.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to do something a little different this episode. I travel a lot, like a lot. And I just got back from Florida on this, I guess, depending on which region you're from, scalloping trip, where we went out into the Gulf, and went snorkeling for scallops. I'm going to call them scallops. We call them scallops down there in Crystal River, Florida, where we went. And, Crystal River is kind of one of those unique places in Florida that is a heavy tourist trap where if it's not tourist season, there ain't shit there to do, right? But in the wintertime, the manatees will come in from the Gulf and they will come into these very clear water springs where the water's like completely clear, 20, 30, 40 feet down. And they'll sit in there and they'll warm up. Now, I've only been to the manatees event kind of late season. So they start going back to the Gulf. And I've only seen a couple of the manatees kind of holding in between the Gulf and the spring. But I can't imagine what those springs look like when all those hundreds and thousands of manatees come in there and they're shitting and farting in the water. That I don't imagine it stays very clear, right?
Thanks for ruining the image.
Yeah. Hey, you're
Yes.
welcome. It's
Sounds like a good swim.
it's a beautiful event. Well, I think pirates way back in the day and sailors mistook manatees for mermaids, right? Because you know how hot manatees are compared to Ariel.
Oh yeah.
From Little Mermaid.
It gets me riled up.
Yeah. Well, it's summer now and it's kind of going into the fall season. And between July and September, that area opens up for scalloping season where you can either kayak or boat out to the scallop beds and snorkel down to get yourself some scallops. Matt, did you ever join the Discord or were you just ignoring us?
He has not joined the Discord.
Well, it's okay.
By the way,
Don't worry about it. How
do I do that?
So open up your Discord and go
hang
to
on.
the In Plain Sight server that we started several weeks ago.
Well, I figured if he had enough intelligence to search for his beer's profile, that he'd be able to go search how to get onto Discord.
Hey, look at that. Mute
Hey.
yourself.
Is he on now?
Mute yourself.
Do you
There you go.
do you see the screen there, Matt?
Does your wife see the screen there?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Very cool. All right. We'll get to scalloping later, but so originally I was planning this family trip where it was going to be the first annual Dang family reunion where my sister, my brother, and my parents would come together and we'd have this awesome week-long vacation. My brother didn't make it. My parents didn't make it. So it was just my sister, her husband, and my family. And, we made it to Crystal River from Atlanta on, I think, a Thursday or something like that. And before we went scalloping, we actually took my sister and my brother-in-law out to Three Sisters Springs, which is located in Crystal River. There's
this is while there's a raging hurricane on its way over to you.
Right. That's right.
I just
That's right.
Make sure the picture's painted
Yeah.
here.
That was Hurricane Ida.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's this really awesome dive shop called Crystal River Dive Center that has a launch that you can take your own kayaks or you can rent their kayaks, buy dive and snorkel gear. And in about 10 or 15 minutes, you get to Three Sisters Springs. And during the manatee season, you can't actually kayak into the spring. You can park outside of the spring and then you can snorkel in. Or during this season, you can actually kayak into a spring and jump in and snorkel. Now, when you snorkel in, the water is like clear and blue, right? So when you're in the water, you're seeing things like striped bass, largemouth bass, and
Oh, that's nice.
I can't remember what the other fish are called, but it's pretty cool because when you're in that area, you can actually launch out into the more open area towards this place called Banana Island, where it's a national wildlife refuge. And during the transitional season, you can actually take your kayaks out there, and the mother manatees will be out there with their calves swimming. And we were, it's pretty cool. So, the problem is that it's so developed out there that a lot of people have their boats out there and they'll end up hitting the manatees and are damaged to manatees and do all these kind of crazy and sad things to them. But, I know that the people in Crystal River, the residents themselves, they do a really good job about trying to protect the manatees as much as possible. But usually the tourists who come there, and usually it's them who are breaking the rules, right, and hurting the manatees. But we travel by RV, So we carry these inflatable kayaks with us. We usually have these Intex Explorer K2 kayaks. That's a tandem kayak that we practically take everywhere for dives and snorkels and just basic kayaking trips. And they're pretty fantastic. We had them for 5 years, and unlike regular kayaks, you can actually jump off the boat and you can get back onto the boat without it flipping. So it's
nice.
it's a fantastic vessel. Pre-COVID, these things were like, I think I got my kayaks for $75 a piece. And
the
then
K2 is the one that you can attach gear to the back, right? It's got the mesh. Yeah.
Yep. So
that's nice.
So during COVID, they went up to like $300 on eBay and secondhand sell site because you couldn't get them from retail store. And now in that transitional phase that we're in COVID, it's like $150, but they're still really worth it. Especially if you have like a sedan or you have limited space. It's pretty cool. We also picked up this other kayak. I think it was made by Best Way or something like that. One of my other kayaks, it's already 6 years old, so it had a tear in the seam, so we had to replace it. Couldn't find another Explorer, so we went and bought this other brand from Academy, and Cynthia and Aiden, they just spun the entire time. It was just kind of like a regular kayak when you don't have that stabilizing fin underneath.
It makes it super hard.
Yeah, it makes it really hard. So we did that on the first day that we got there. We actually got there and we hit the road. So we hit the ground running because they only allow us to launch the kayaks up to a certain time. So we went and launched the kayak. We came back in and we did it right on time because, the storm was coming in and we're getting some bands of the storm and it starts to storm. But we ended up going to this place called Crab Plant for dinner. And if you guys like blue crabs, there's no better place in the Southeast for blue crabs than Crab Plants. You can go to Savannah, you can go to Pensacola and all these other places like Louisiana, and you never really get fresh blue crabs. But for some reason, Crab Plant in BF Crystal River, Florida, has the best crabs that you can buy. And it's fresh. It's fresh, cooked on the spot. And you buy them by a dozen.
Now, like, what's the experience like? So, like, you got the brown paper on the table with a hammer, and you're just like, you go at it.
Yep, that's what you do.
Nice.
So you can make a mess, and they bring you pictures of beer, and you're getting drunk and just eating crabs, man.
Do they give you a bib so you can pretend like you have some civility?
No, because it's crazy because every time I've been to Crab Plant, it seems like my table is the only one that's picking out on beer and blue crabs, and everybody's looking on in amazement, right? Because most people aren't from that area because Crab Plant is kind of a touristy spot. So during the tourist season, most people are coming from different states who don't have access to blue crabs. So we're sitting here. I mean, dude, our faces are covered in shell and guts and whatever.
That's
else.
the only way to eat it. Yeah. I don't understand what the problem is.
I know. but yeah, they're fantastic, man. If you guys ever get down to Crystal River, Matt, especially you guys definitely need to try Crab Plant. So after that, we got back to our place. We stayed at this place called Rock Crusher Canyon, and you don't expect a place in Florida to be called Canyon, right?
Right.
Yeah. I guess they had a rock quarry there and they dug a hole out, but it's this huge RV park that there are a lot of permanent residents and snowbirds who reside there. Crazy because it's the first RV park I've ever been to that they didn't have like campfires. There weren't kids running around. It just didn't really feel like a campsite. I know we're glamping, but still, nobody was out like having a good time. So the next morning, we had rented a boat, a pontoon from this place called it's River Safaris out in Homosassa, Florida, which is right next to Crystal River. And we get there and they put us on this really cool pontoon boat. I think it held up to 16 people, but I was trying to save like $50. So instead of going with the bigger motor, I ended up with this 50 horsepower motor. And if you guys know anything about boats and pontoons, a 50 horsepower motor.
Yeah, might as well have a trolley in the back there.
Right. Yeah, that's like a lake boat, right? But we're going to the ocean with a pontoon, 6 people on it, and basically a fucking gas trolling motor.
20 minutes later, why are we still next to the shore?
So the scallop beds are about 12 miles offshore. And for the most part, traveling across the creeks of Crystal River and Homosassa River, whatever it was, you're going pretty slow. It's
So when you rent a boat out there, do you have to like get a Florida boating license, or do they just accept your driver's license and reciprocate Georgia?
No, so Georgia requires a boater safety course.
Right.
If you're under a certain age. Past that age, everybody's grandfathered in. So we could be half blind, no limbs, and be driving a boat.
Oh, nice.
Okay, that explains a lot of the boaters I've seen out there. All right.
Yeah, right. And so Phoenix my daughter has a safety course license. To be a captain, there are more steps to it. But anyways, so we get on this boat. We pack all of our shit. We bring coolers and food and all that good stuff. And I'm traveling through this creek. And by the way, so they tell us, hey, go to the end of the creek and you're going to turn left at Monkey Island. Monkey Island is a little island. It's about, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred square feet wide. It's an actual island that has spider monkeys on it. And spider monkeys are afraid of water. So they don't escape the island. They're stuck on that island.
How do they get there?
So people put them there.
That's messed up.
This will be fine. Hey, watch this, guys.
So they build these little enclosures and habitat for them, and the spider monkeys just hang out there. The only time they come in is when a hurricane is actually predicted to hit Crystal River or Homosassa, and they'll put them into a sanctuary, and then they'll put their asses back out there afterwards.
That's hilarious. So back up a little bit. You said you went down a creek and they told you to turn a left at the island. Am I mistaken? Like, isn't a creek kind of like just a small river? Why is there an island in the middle of this small river?
So there are a lot of islands. I guess they were built like they were just happenstance sandbars. And in this area where you're traveling through Homosassa River, there are these random islands all over the place. And they just happen to turn one into a fucking monkey island, man.
Hey guys, let's wait a minute.
Right, and the monkeys are like a sideshow, right? So there are bars on every corner, so that they're sitting there, their chairs turned to Monkey Island so people can get drunk and look at these monkeys. It's kind of funny. But they take care of their monkeys. So the trip out to the area takes about an hour and a half. All right. Mm-hmm. We get passed through the no wake zones, and you guys who have never been in a lake or the ocean, no wake zones, basically residential development where they don't want you to make waves and destroy their dock and property and boats and all that. So we get past the no wake zone. I'm starting to see other boats that are headed out to the scalloping beds. I'm like, yeah, I can finally watt this thing. Watt's, wide open throttle, right? So I watt this thing. The son of a bitch went 14 and a half miles, man. We're the slowest goddamn boat in that water. And everybody is passing us, everyone.
But you saved the $50.
Yeah, no, you know what? Never again. Next time I'll be getting larger boats. So we finally make it out to the scalloping beds. Now the scalloping beds is, you can still see land, but we were 12 miles away from our boat landing. But it's kind of out in the open Gulf. All right. It's kind of cool because they're channel markers. Basically, your boat needs to stay between the posts that are left and right. And the water in the middle of the channel is relatively deep. But once you get out of that channel marker, even in the open Gulf, the depth is anywhere between 5 and 10 feet. And, if you guys look at the picture over there on Discord, so this is kind of the grounds of the scallop bed, right? It has this lush green grass that you can really clearly see when you're out there and you're snorkeling, because that water in the Gulf, man, it's just crystal clear, right? Even if you're kicking up dirt, just give it a couple seconds and it settles and you can see that thing clear as day. And then at first, we were swimming around for about 10 or 15 minutes. We didn't find shit because we'd never scalloped before. And we were like, you know what? We're not going to go on a charter trip. And we're not going to hire a qualified captain, at least, because, I'm not a qualified captain, especially not for scalloping. So we're kind of roaming around the water. We're like, all right, We don't see anything here. Let's pick up anchor. Let's go. So we pick up anchor and we kind of troll around the scallop beds for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times. And then I was kind of giving up hope. I jumped down one more time. And then all of a sudden I see one of these little guys sitting at the bottom of the scallop beds. And then as soon as you see them and you know what you're looking for, you can start to see them. But we were sent to the scallop beds that the tourists had already been through it over the month of July.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no.
their numbers were a lot smaller. You know, our deckhand who had prepared our boat for us sent us to a different area. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to kind of stick with the original plan here and go where all the tourists were. Because if something happened, I'm not too familiar with these waters that I could find help. But we had a good time, man. We even got to the point where, so our kids end up staying in the boat and they end up bringing in the scallops. They kind of switched out the water to keep it fresh and keep the scallops alive. At one point, the 4 adults were off scalloping, and Cynthia hands me some scallops. She was like, "Hey, go take these back to the boat." I'm like, "All right." So I'm here kicking my fins, going back to the boat with my face in the water. I pick it up. I'm like, "Why haven't I moved?" So I kick some more. I'm getting tired. Pick my face up. I'm like, "Why did I move backwards?" So I kick some more. I was like, "Fuck, the boat is drifting, man. I got 2 anchors in the water." The boat's fucking drifting, and neither one of the kids are paying attention. Because Phoenix knows how to drive the boat, right? But they weren't paying attention. And I couldn't yell to them because the wind was going the opposite direction. And they had made it so far that when I was trying to yell out to them, they couldn't hear me. So I had to kick my fins really hard. And I finally made it back onto the boat. But so we spent like 5 hours out in the water, scalloping. And you know, to our west.
So scalloping then is just like you pop on some snorkels and then you just dive down to shallow water, and you look for these little air filter looking things with shells.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool, right? Because number one, despite how long I was out there, I couldn't remember which way to breathe before I went down.
That makes sense.
Because you know, trying to go down 10 feet in salt water with with lungs full of air is impossible. Number one. You're just float right back up, right? And same thing around 6-7 feet of water. It's actually kind of difficult to get to them. Number two, they're not like clams or oysters. If you guys ever went after clams and oysters, you know, you just pick them up. Scallops, they'll start fucking biting your ass, man.
Oh,
right?
Really?
Yeah. So you see those blue things on the shell right here?
Yeah.
Those are their eyes. Okay. So they can actually see you. And, you know, if you go to try to grab them and you miss, they'll actually swim away too.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's kind of cool to see how these things actually move. But, you know, we were having a great time out there. So it's one of the coolest experience we ever had because, you know, I'm a hunter, but I'd never hunt in the water before. I've never done spear fishing. I've never done that type of I guess, gathering before. And then going down to that water and seeing the fish that are down there was just fantastic, man. You guys know what a remora is?
No.
So a remora it looks like a little shark, but they usually attach themselves to sharks and rays, and they eat like the crumbs off the sharks and the rays. Here, let me pull it up real quick. So what? Sure. What's up?
I need to get something.
Okay, so you guys see that right there?
Hi.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys.
Oh,
ever
I
seen
know
one?
this.
Yeah,
I know this. Yeah.
right. So Cynthia.
They're stuck to me.
Yeah, there you go. Cynthia had one of these stuck to her, which is really cool. You know, so when you're down there, you're not just catching scallops. You're actually seeing the wildlife that's out there. I mean, you get to see snappers, you get to see remoras, and there was a boat that was, I think, about 1 or 2 cities away from us, and they were out there scalloping too, and they ended up seeing a lemon shark with a rope tied around its body. So they actually end up pulling in the shark. Shark was about 7-8 feet. They removed the line and let the shark go. So, you know, man, it's just a fantastic experience. And so the scallops in in Pensacola, not Pensacola, in the Gulf, are bay scallops. So if you go to your grocery store, you see these large scallops. When you go to Japanese stores, those are sea scallops. The bay scallops are tiny. They're about dime size, penny size, right?
Mhm.
And in Florida, they don't allow you to commercially harvest them. So these are for private individuals only. So their population is in abundance, and every year they come back and they restore the population when they.
So how many of these would you have to catch for like a decent meal?
So okay, we caught a gallon, which is
Is that a
really
lot?
pathetic.
No.
Okay. A gallon is pathetic because here, let me see if I can show you my gallon of scallops. So each boat, I think, is allowed to catch 10 gallons. Okay. And the deckhand originally gave me 5 gallons. It's like, why don't you go ahead and give me the limit of buckets? I'll laugh when we got back.
That sounds like
Oh,
Right. It sounds like me. It is me. Right. I don't know where.
It may have been too small for the camera to pick up.
Right. So a gallon is about a fourth of a quart-sized sandwich bag.
Or a gallon of milk.
So okay. All right. Actually,
good reference.
no. So a gallon of scallops includes the shells, right? So
Okay.
after you shuck them, I think we ended up with about 10 scallops a piece for 6 people.
Okay.
And they're the tiny scallops, but they taste so much better than the ones you get in the store. But we ended up doing a surf and turf. So we went out and picked up some steaks and had them with the scallops.
Nice.
But
Nice.
so we were scalloping. We were about 5 hours into it. And to the west of us, there was this storm. It was moving really, really slowly, right?
Mhm.
And we decided, we're going to go ahead and scallop as much as we can before we got to go back in, because that storm seems to be pretty far off. Next thing you know, there's a storm coming from the other side, from the southeast side. That's now coming towards us with that west side storm. So we're getting sandwiched in.
Oh yeah, nice, perfect storm. Love it.
no.
Yeah. So we looked around. We're like, where are the other boats at? They were gone, man. All the other captains were gone.
They were smart.
So the wind starts picking up. Our bimini top is like blowing all over the place, and then the white caps start like going right.
Oh, great.
And what I do, I wide open throttle it. So here's my load.
And go ahead, full throttle, guys. Hold on.
It was worse. The wind was. We had a headwind, okay, and the swells were getting about 3 or 4 feet. So the waves were about 3 or 4 feet. So now it's going in the opposite direction of where we were. We were 12 miles off of our landing. Our 14.5 mile per hour boat went down to 9 miles per hour. Okay.
Mhm.
And at this point, the rain was hitting us from every single side. And our visibility was maybe about 5 to 10 feet ahead of us. I decided to turn on my Garmin watch that day. I don't know why. I usually don't. And I was able to turn back into my GPS tracker and follow that line blindly back into the landing. So, my sister, my brother-in-law, dude, we all thought we were going to die that day. If it wasn't a pontoon, how the pontoon has like the open decking? That boat would have been flooded, man. It would have been done for.
So wait, is this that 18-mile snorkel you have on your
it's 22 mile snorkel.
22 miles
22
snorkel.
mile snorkel. Yeah.
Love
So dude, number one, the rain hurts. If y'all never been boating or motorcycling in the rain, it hurts. And between the rain getting in and the waves like going over the boat and the water getting into the boat, I showed this to Andy earlier, Matt, but that's what my hair ended up looking like when we got out of the storm. And that was us post surviving the storm. Aiden had managed to stay dry the entire trip until that storm came in, and he was soaking wet by the time that thing got done.
Man.
I do like how you have good Garmin placement right there, though.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean that was pretty good stuff, man.
I mean, I'm not, trying to point anything out or anything, but it's cool.
Yeah.
It's funny because we use our watches for running, And I didn't realize how valuable that Garmin was for other events until that day, because I didn't expect to be caught in a storm, even though Ida was coming. I thought that, number one, our boat wasn't going to turtle at 14.5 to 9 miles per hour. So I know that when we were turtling in, there was this boat that was, I don't know, 10 miles away from us, right? We turn around and we're turtling. Maybe about 5 minutes later, that boat passed us.
Oh.
Damn it.
Not making me feel worse.
Yeah, so that was an exciting trip though, man. So we made it back into the landing really safely, and it turned out to be a great trip overall. We went back. We had our scallops. There was a couple that was set up at the boat landing that shuck scallops for $5 a gallon, and that day only cost me $5 in shucking because I only had
Just saving more money.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, they were excellent, man. We ended up pan frying them up in a cast iron with some butter and some soy, and they turned fantastic with the steak, man. And but look, Crystal River's a fantastic spot. It's inexpensive to really stay at because it's one of those small town Florida cities. But if you get into Crystal River, I mean, there's so many things that you can do out there if you enjoy nature, because Crystal River Springs, Three Sister Springs isn't the only place that you got to go to. There's a state park there called Homosassa Springs State Park, and they keep a lot of manatees who are in rehab in that park. So if you don't get to see manatees out in the wild, you can actually see manatees there. And I don't know if you guys know this, but you guys seen manatees before, right? They're huge. Yeah. They're large. You know that they don't have any fat at all. They're not fat. There's no fat in them.
You know that?
Yeah. So
is it just muscle? What is that?
It's just muscle, and they just eat a lot of plant, and that I guess controls their buoyancy and a couple of other things. But Homosassa Springs also has a zoo that you can walk through. So you spend a couple of bucks, go to that national the state park, and have a really good time there. And then
if I was going to go down there and I was like, you know what, I want to take this trip out, I want to go see some manatees, like what's the process of like finding a charter boat or finding a boat that I can pilot myself and getting out there? Like, is it just as simple as just doing a search and heading out there and just pick one up and picking a time slot to get out?
Yeah. So, if you didn't want to pilot a boat, right? So if you're more comfortable with a canoe or a kayak, you go to Crystal River Dive Center. There's really no better place in Homosassa or Crystal River to do that, because they're the only ones that have the landing, and they're the closest to Three Sister Springs, where most of the manatees go into. Okay. They're also really good guys over there. A rental is about $35 for a single, $45 for a tandem, and you get that for the whole day. Wow. It's really hard to beat. I think they also have the see-through kayaks, where it's clear at the bottom, so you can see the manatees as you're kayaking through. They also rent snorkel gear. So if you want to go snorkel with the manatees, you can. And, you don't have to be a great swimmer to snorkel, right? Because if you're wearing like a wetsuit during the colder months when the manatees are there, wetsuits are buoyant, they act like life jackets, and they keep you warm. So you can really experience Crystal River, even whether it's manatees or scalloping, whether you're a good swimmer or not. And that's one of the great things about that area. Now, as far as boats are concerned, we went to river safaris to rent our pontoon boat. They have stronger pontoon boats with larger motors, and they have deck boats, and they have skiffs as well. So if you want to go fishing, if you want to go a little faster, you could. And I think our boat only turned out to be $350, and we split that between two families, and that includes the fuel. So that was, I don't know if you guys ever own a boat before, but boat is an acronym for break out another 1,000, right? Because we're always spending more money on maintaining our boats. So if you don't have a place to store a boat, or if you don't want to own your own boat, man, renting a boat once, twice, or 3 times a year is a fantastic deal, because you can do it 3 times out of a year for under $1,000. And river safaris, their deckhands and their team there is just pretty fantastic, and they have a restaurant there too. So if you want to eat before or after, you could do that too.
So the people shucking on the dock, were they part of River Safari, or was that just like some private people?
Just some private people that River Safari let them set up. So you can go to different boat landings, and there are tents everywhere set up for it. Now, what's really cool about the areas is that when we were going out, you you would have these little merchants on boats, right?
Mhm.
So, the three of us, we're from Savannah. I don't know how much time you guys spent fishing, but if I wanted bait, I had to go to the marina to get bait. Right out in the middle of the Gulf, there's a boat with bait and ice cream. Okay. And then, there was another boat that sold snacks and lunch, and I can't remember. It was something These Nuts. It was These Nuts.
Simply these nuts.
Yeah,
That's probably what it was.
Oh, it was Shuck These Nuts. These
Nice.
Nuts.
I love it.
Yeah, Shuck
Good.
These Nuts. And he sold snacks and stuff like that off his merchant boat. So it's a really cool setting down in Homosassa. They're really set up for tourists to go down there. That's where their income's coming from, right?
Okay.
Yep. So,
That's awesome. So, all right. If I go out there, I've never been scalloping before. So this is all super interesting to me. I get a boat, I get out there, they tell me where to go. Like they'll point it somewhere on the map and say, hey, go in that direction, this degree. And then once you get there, drop anchor and just start swimming around and look for these beds.
So yeah, if you've never been out there and you don't want to hire a captain, you can actually hire a boat captain for $65 with your boat.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. So, if you're not comfortable driving a boat, piloting a boat, hire the captain. The captain can't get off the boat. He can't show you how to do it. He's got to stay in the boat. Okay. So he's not going to guide you either. He's going to take you out to the scallop beds and then you'll jump off the boat. Now, out in Homosassa, even from the boat rental place, there are they're channel markers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're red and green ones representing the areas that you guys stay in the center. So they give you a map. They tell you which channel markers to go out to. As long as you're following those channels, you can get out to the areas that you need to be. And then once you get to like marker 7 or marker 12 or whatever it is that you want to go to, you veer off. And then all of a sudden you'll notice that you can start seeing the ground. And then that's when all over that place, the scallop beds are huge. So now if you want to charter, what's that, man?
Did you have to swim deep in order to get to the scallops?
5 to 10 feet, man. 5 to 10 feet. No.
And you have to watch your breathing when you go down. Actually, I am curious how you swam, considering that the last time we talked, 3 days ago, you couldn't swim.
Yeah. So if you throw me in fresh water, I can't swim. Throw me in salt water, I do just fine. Especially, you got to remember, I'm a really good. I think we told you this before. I'm really great at diving. I dive better than my wife does, and she's a great swimmer.
I think I've always misheard that for lying, but that's cool.
No, so I'm actually a really good diver. And as long as I'm in salt water with some fins, I'm perfectly fine. But so also kind of to go back to your other question is that when we went and saw the manatees earlier last year, we paid for a shared charter where we jump on with other people. Now, if you've never been in that water before, if you've never piloted a boat before, I don't recommend renting a boat during the manatee season because there's a very good chance you're going to hit a manatee. Okay. You don't want to do that. The captains are really good about not hitting the manatees and putting you on top of manatees. So we paid, I think, for the 4 of us about $125 for snorkel gear, wetsuits, and a charter to go out and do the manatees.
That's really good. That's really cheap. That's crazy.
Yeah. So, we went both ways. We brought our kayaks. We did that once, and then we also got the charter. Now, if you want to charter for scallops, that's going to cost you an arm and a leg. You're looking about anywhere between $4,000 and over $1,000 for a family of 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it depends on how long you want to go out. But I mean, if you are comfortable with piloting a boat and you end up going out there and taking and renting a VRBO, because those are relatively inexpensive out down that way, or getting a cabin over at Rock Crusher or another campsite or a hotel, I think you can do a whole weekend or a long weekend over there for under $1,000 for a family of 4, man.
So I'm super interested in this with the boating though. So if let's pretend I've never drove a boat before, I never piloted one, I never went out in the ocean. Is this a good, given that it's the Gulf, is this a good beginner experience? Try it out here, don't do it during hurricane season, and give it a shot.
So yes and no. The channels are relatively small. I think it would be better if you went out to someplace like Savannah or someplace that didn't have really shallow areas off the channels to get into your first time boating. Especially if you're a fisherman and you wanted to take a boat out for the first time and you weren't aware of the scallop beds and the rocks and the hazards that are in Homosassa River, you're going to get into a lot of trouble. I mean, a lot of trouble, right? So, here is that once you pass the scallop beds and you're actually into the open Gulf, you're free to go. But if you never pilot a boat before and you're renting a boat that doesn't have GPS and you have no GPS device on you, pretty good chance you're going to be shit out of luck, right?
So these boats didn't come with like a depth meter or a GPS device in it?
And my boat's gas tank showed empty the entire time. So,
you saved a lot of money.
Yeah, my deckhand assured me
Worth a fun
that it
story.
was full of gas, but no, it did fine. There was one moment when the motor started bogging down, but it recovered from that. We made it back safe, man. It's a fantastic time. It's fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks to Garmin.
Yeah, man. So, all right, Andy, you're up next week, right?
Yeah. So actually, this is a cool segue. Like you talked about how Garmin basically saved you and your family. You got to get back. You were able to navigate it, but we always talk about how great technology is. We never talk about the disadvantages, the lingering side effects of using technology. And I think I want to take a small dive into digital privacy. I think it'd be interesting to talk about like how we use this technology and how it can affect you on an everyday basis. More and more we hear about the utilities that we use online and how like people get hacked and you get these notices like, hey, change your password. And by the way, here you go. Here's one free year of, we'll make sure that, you'll know if your social security number gets used on some credit reporting agency. But is that sufficient? Is that really enough for you to feel protected? Is your credit really the only thing about you in your life that you think that, should be protected? I don't think so. And I think the more you think about it, the more it's like, well, I deserve more protection. And if that means more, anonymous viewing and less other people actually looking at my data and collecting that data, I think that's a good change, and I want to take a deep dive in that. I think that's a good topic, and I think it's something that's not necessarily in plain sight, but should be.
So is that low key for how to clear your browser history before
browse incognito?
Yeah,
I wish. But I think it's more about like how often you should carry your phone with you when you go to the grocery store. How often you should do that Google search when you have that nagging question. How often you should say, yeah, I am 32 years old. I got married 2 years ago. Because when you have places like Target, who knows, they have an algorithm and they can say, hey, if you're 32, you got married 2 years ago, there's an 80% chance that you're going to try to get pregnant, and they start sending you pregnancy ads. Right. That's your privacy that literally just got violated, and we're okay with it.
It's crazy because I've looked at this hackathon, which is a coding programming contest where you could win prizes, right? It's for Tractor Supply Company. And one of the hackathon areas is
for Tractor Supply Company.
Yeah, because they want to use video feeds to determine how long people are lingering into aisles so that they can optimize their aisles, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of crazy things, man. I think that's a great topic, especially if we start talking about browser histories and stuff like
that. We'll use yours as an example. So
it's going to be deleted by next week. All right, guys. Okay. Until next week. Actually, it's going to be this week, right? Because we ran a little late for episode 7.
It's going to be like 4 days.
All right. It's going to be in 4 days. Well, you know what? If you guys ever get a chance to make it out to Crystal River, Florida, it's definitely a go-to destination. There are manatees out there. There's scalloping. There's great fishing and hiking and swimming out there that you can just spend a whole lot of time out there without spending a whole lot of money, right? So, if you're a family of 4 or more or less, or if you're all by yourself and lonely, like Matt been for many years, then Crystal River is a great spot to go to. Until Friday?
Friday.
All right.
Friday.
Signing off.
See you later, guys.
7. All right.
Cheers.